All right, moving on to the large country of Canada. Biggest, hugest country in the whole world of Canada. And that's it. So when this becomes a clip, because I know this probably won't get cut out of this, but that's a joke because people got mad because Gonky called it a small country last time because he cyberbullies people.
I don't cyberbully.
You are cyberbully. Here, let me zoom in so you can read this. So this is the National Post, which looks to me like a Canadian commentary. So let's keep this in mind when we're talking about it. But it had some interesting comments that I wanted to hit. Training planes for fighter pilots are the latest piece of equipment that has the military scratching its head and leaning on its allies. And it's not just the aircraft, which you can see here. It says the Royal Canadian Air Force's CF-188 Hornets and CT-155 Hawks fly over the city of Cold Lake. Where's the Hornet?
Camera bird.
Oh.
That's my guess.
The one guy got to be the... So it says that the life cycle of military planes can be estimated from day one. So it's a head scratcher that the training aircraft for the Royal Canadian Air Force fighter pilots have reached the end of their useful lives. And now, where have we heard this before?
Oh, dude.
I mean, this is the same thing. The retiring plane is the CT-155 Hawk, which is what pilots fly before they graduate to the CF-18. It's been in use for 24 years. Brother, let me tell you something. If we had something that had only been in use for 24 years...
Brand new. It's still new.
South, yeah.
It's still new.
Let's try doubling, almost tripling that number, and then come talk to us before we write a hit piece. Because, yeah. I mean, even the
T45 Navy Hawks are older.
Yeah, even the T45 is old. Like the C is older than this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 30 years.
Or
90,
about
92?
The C model? The C model version? How old is
that?
The
C model? Nah, C model's about 25 years old. So about the same.
Well, so the T6 is getting to be 24 years. I mean, we're there. Yeah. So anyway, he goes on to say that the CT-155 has been in 24 years since Canada is eventually upgrading its fighter fleet to the F-35. The Hawk has become outdated, but Canada is not ready for the switch. So it's halting its domestic fighter training program until a suitable plane is secured and conducting it in the U.S., Finland, and Italy. Hold on now. Did you happen to look at what the U.S. has? Because we don't have anything either. And the T7 just keeps rolling down.
So, I mean, so Canada's like, all right, we're going to take a 28-year-old jet's too old. We're going to send 24. Them to the Air Force. They're going to fly 65-year-old jets.
Yeah.
And it's going to be way better.
Totally makes sense. I'm with you here.
Yeah.
So this is pretty biased here. It took many years for Canada to finally pull the trigger on upgrading the F-35. Claiming Canada did not need the F-35's first strike capability. Yeah, I mean, that ain't wrong. But someone pointed out previously that the reason they need it is because of their NATO commitments. So I'll buy that. You know, if you're going to say you're going to play in the big game, yep, you know, here's your fair share. So I get it. Okay. So in January, he changed his mind and queued up for 88 of the jets, costing $70 billion in total. 88 jets only cost you $70 billion? That's a bargain.
No, dude, they make their money on the 30-year support program.
A warranty. The warranty and the nitrogen in the tires. That's where they got them.
Yeah.
The road to upgrade. Yeah, well, this sounds familiar. Road to upgrade the fighters took incredibly long, leading to inflated costs. No. There are deeper problems when it comes to personnel. Boy, this does sound familiar. About 10% of the roles in the already small force are vacant. And in the procurement department, 30% are not filled. Over the past 3 years, more people have left than have entered. Frankly, it's a death spiral. Yep.
So,
hold on. We're not done yet. So now he's going to complain about standards for recruits are lowered every year. Long nails, hair dye, and face tattoos were permitted in 2022. But more recently, they've begun excusing some applicants from aptitude tests to cut down on processing time, which is expanding recruiting to those with medical conditions. The lower standards may not have a negative impact on the CAF in the short term. Then again, There wouldn't be. The Canadian military is usually in life or death situations where there's required would that matter in the first place. Wow. It cuts thick. I mean, this is the politest sarcasm. It's hardly a surprise that people aren't leaping for a chance to work at the military. It doesn't have enough equipment to run, has about 35% of its membership reporting that they have insufficient equipment to properly do their jobs, that insist on promoting divisive identity politics among its ranks. Nor is it surprising people don't want to enter an emaciated organization that's facing looming budget cuts and has already dealt housing allowance cuts. Wow, really? Now we can't even train our own fighter pilots at home. The inability to plan for a Hawk replacement doesn't bode well for the rest of equipment. And now they're talking about Ukraine, where they've given 220 million howitzers, ammunition, guns, Leopard tanks. We talked about this, AIM-9s, right? That was part of the thing they were given for the F-16s. Government sent 8 tanks to Ukraine since the start of the war, even though they said it was going to be much shorter. And as for fighter pilots, I don't know when they're coming back. And then I love the comments. We're committed to maintaining a lively but civil forum for discussion.
So Canadian.
Here in the U.S., we're not. We just, if you see the YouTube comments on this very video, people will go all out. So Gawky, this sounds like the same old song and dance. It doesn't, like we've seen this in the United States, right? Since the dawn of our careers.
Well, so when I was a RAG IP, we had a Canadian exchange pilot, and he was an awesome dude, great guy. We were friends. We hung out outside of work a little bit as well, and he ended up going back to Canada, and he ended up being the commanding officer of, I think, one of these training squadrons. Anyways, he got in trouble. I think even relieved of command because he just wasn't nice enough. And I won't say his name, but he was a true professional, somebody who, in my opinion, embraced not like bad fighter pilot culture, because he's a family man, but he had the fighting spirit. He rocked a gnarly mustache.
Hell
yeah, man. He was a Robin Old, a nice version of a Robin Olds kind of guy, and they canned him. And
that's how it works.
I'm pretty certain Canada is suffering from the same issues that we are in the U.S. regarding if you want to have a fighting force, you got to attract the right kind of people and retain the right kind of people, and their government's not doing that. Similar, I think, to what our government's doing, which is outside the coal mine.
Yeah, which outside they're the canary in the coal mine as far as kind of some of the things they're doing, just in general.
100%.
So, I mean, I think they're worse.
100%.
But going back to the root thing, we're just talking about trainers. And first off, a 24-year-old trainer is not old. I mean, compared to what we have.
It takes 20 years to get the F-35 to full rate production.
Yeah, so, I mean, I would be happy to have a 24-year-old trainer. Now, what is the CT-155? How close to that is that to the T-45? Are they pretty?
I mean,
non-afterburning turbofan kind of
Rolls-Royce. The big difference between the Navy T-45 version and the Hawk like this, and like the Malaysians had the Hawk, is the landing gear and then where the speed brakes are. Like, so, and the Navy Hawk is heavier because of the gear.
Well, and so we go back to our point that we've made with the T-7, right? Delays are happening, and unless the jets are falling apart, you can still do stuff. The fighter lead-in stuff, because when you get to the F-35, it's so different that once you teach the basic skills, it doesn't matter. Like you can have a Gen 2 trainer because it's so different. I mean, that's how the T38C is, right? I mean, it's so different on how it flies than an F-35 that really you're just teaching situational awareness, basic airmanship, some formation stuff. And then you're like, okay, you're going to learn the big systems and the tactics and all that stuff once you get to your airplane. Now, the problem, though, is where were I missed what countries did they say they were sending them to? The United States and who else? Italy?
Excuse me.
Oh, yeah, Finland and Italy. I don't think any of those countries have. I mean, I know the U.S. doesn't, but I don't think you're getting anything newer in any of those countries.
No, and the thing is, when they say the Hawk is, woefully outdated, it's not that the airplane is the issue. It needs an avionics upgrade, right? It needs, you can
Yeah.
take, I mean, I flew the T45A model, all steam gauges. It had a HUD, but it was a useless HUD. We used it for nothing. We used it for gunnery. That's it. And CCIP bombing. But the T45C much more resembled, a Hornet with, displays and,
Yeah.
waypoints and things like that. So like, you know, I don't know what the cost difference is, and that might be the issue. It might not be cost effective to upgrade them to newer avionics, but
Well, this is the exact same thing. So we just talked about this maybe a couple weeks ago. Remember, we were talking about the T38, and the Air Force was in this pickle because the T7 keeps rolling to the right and or left, which direction we're Rolexing. They keep sliding to the right, and it
right,
keeps moving. It keeps moving. It's moving, and so the T38s are getting to a situation where the engines are having issues because they're not making them. There's no parts,
right,
and the wings, the wing spar, like just thousands and thousands of hours on these airframes. It doesn't talk about that, but I would be curious to know how many hours they have on these airframes.
right.
Is it a G issue, which I can't imagine that thing's pulling more than 6, maybe 7?
7.33.
Yeah,
7.33 was the Navy limit.
right. So, but does it need to pull like? Because remember the T38A, we were flying 60-year-old airplanes, and we had a G limit that was not coincidental with what it had when it came out of the factory. Remember, it was like a 7G, but we were really only pulling 5 to 6 because of
Right.
the limitations.
Right. We
But
had to
there's
note it.
right, and there's the SLEP program, the Service Life Extension Program, where you can depot level enhance the life cycle. It costs money, of course, but when you're talking about sending pilots over to other countries, the problem with the U.S. is we have trouble training our own pilots.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the same boat for different
Right.
reasons. Well, no, for really the same reason,
Yeah.
except 60 years later, because what we did was we didn't have a 24-year-old trainer. We had 2000. So we had a 34-year-old trainer in 2000 when they said, hey, we need a T38C, and we upgraded it. And that was only supposed to be a stopgap. And now we're here we are, 24 years later with a way too old airplane that doesn't simulate anything. It doesn't come close to replicating anything we fly. So it's not about that. We've proven it's not about that. So
Yeah. The 38 simulates a jet aircraft, period. That's it.
and so does the 155,
I
so
know.
does an L39, so does
Yeah.
an L159. Like there are other options out there. But I will point out that what you talked about, because people ask, about Canadian fighter pilots. Every year at Homestead, we used to have the Canadian Hornet guys and
They're
gals.
great.
Hornet, it was just guys back then that would come down to Homestead, and we would do exercises with them. We would do intercepts. We would do defensive counter air, offensive counter air, BFM, a lot of BFM. Those dudes like to go up. That's
Yeah.
the Hornet. They just like to go up, and we used to always surprise them with the double Emmelman, because clean Viper, you're one guy keyed up on the radio was like, whoa, as you're going over the top for the second time, because the jet will just do it. But we worked alongside of them. They were all cool. They were all professional.
Yeah.
I would be proud to have to stand shoulder to shoulder with them in combat. So I think we share the same problems, and the problems that they talked about in this about recruitment and retention, dude, it's the same thing, and it's the same symptoms, and it boils down to the top, whether it's the top of the military or politicians or whatever. If you as a fighting person do not have faith in what you're fighting for and who you're fighting with, because if you don't feel like you've got top cover and you can go execute the mission,
Right.
you're not going to want to do it. Like,
No.
I mean, flying jets is cool, but if you don't believe in it, because at the end of the day, you are still signing that blank check up to and including your life to defend your country. And that is an awesome thing to do. But if you're not given a reason to believe in that, and that is the job of your superiors to take care of your people so that they want to follow you in the battle, then you're going to have these issues.
No professional wants to be on a half-ass team.
Nope.
I mean, whether it's racing cars, racing dirt bikes, flying fighters, dude, if you're not surrounded by like-minded people who have the same mission in mind, who are motivated, driven, well-funded, and equipped, it really changes things.
Yeah. I feel for them. I'm not making fun of when we talk about, hey, 24 years, suck it up. We're not making fun of them.
No.
We're not saying that it's not an issue. Of course it's an issue, and it's in an ideal world, 24 years would be too much. And I said that about the United States. I think the T38 was outdated well before it reached the T38C. And, I don't think in 2000, I don't think there should have existed a T38 anymore. Like when the Tweet left, the T38 should have left. They were both well past their prime and did not simulate anything that we had. And putting a HUD and MFDs didn't fix the problem. So I already believe that. And I agree with them. But in today's world, I almost go back to just the article itself, the sensationalism of the article, because a lot of the things he's talking about are not unique to Canada. Canada is having the same problems that all the allies are having, and it's because of supply chain issues and single point of failures with, who wins the contract. Because, America's still the leader in this stuff. So when America selects the T7, well, all our partners will go, okay, yep, we're in that same boat. And then when it gets delayed, just like when the F-35 gets delayed, there's no stopgap. Maybe Canada goes and looks at the F-A-50. That thing, dude, start looking, think outside the box there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. From the audience, related topic. So just keeping this on the same topic. Housing. Jordan says housing is a huge issue with the Canadian Air Force right now. A lot of personnel here are pissed about it, and that is unset.
Right.
You can't cut. It's a floor. Wherever it is now, it should never go below. And the idea, especially with inflation, global inflation's a thing. U.S. inflation, Canadian inflation. You cannot cut pay. Like, no way, man. No way. That's fathomable.
Yeah, that's like a blue on blue.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a blue on blue, and that's not good. Not cool.
There are things outside of your control, like service life of an aircraft. Maybe you didn't plan, maybe things outside of your control happen, but this is one of those things that you cannot allow.